Sitting at dinner, Mr. Tom said to his wife, "You know, our relationship is like a well-oiled machine." His wife smiled and said, "Oh, really? So you mean I'm the oil and you're the machine?" A lumber mill posts an assistant wanted ad for a lumber inspector and receives only one application. When they call the prospective employee in for an interview, they realize he is an elderly man who is very clearly blind. The manager is skeptical that a blind man could be a lumber inspector, but after some convincing by the blind man, the manager decides to give him a quick test to see if he would be a good fit. A couple of employees usher in some lumber. The blind man leans towards it and gives 2 long sniffs. "This is good lumber," he remarks. 2x6 pine board, cut to stud length of 93, no extreme warps or bows. This is a good board. Send it down the line. The manager is quite surprised but still skeptical. The employees usher in more wood. Again, the blind man sniffs it. "Let's see. This is a punky old birch log that has been sawed in half. It's not fit for lumber. This will never pass. Please dispose of this." The manager is now very impressed. He is feeling a little mischievous now and wants to see if he can stump the blind man. He decides to play a prank. He ushers in his secretary and she faces the would-be inspector and lifts up her skirt. He leans in and sniffs. Quite perplexed, he asks for the board to be rotated. The secretary turns around and he leans in for another whiff. A smirk crosses his face and he says, "You guys are trying to trick me. This isn't milled lumber, it's a shithouse store from a tuna boat." A very elderly couple is celebrating their 75th wedding anniversary. The man says to his wife, "Dear, there is something that I must ask you. It has always bothered me that our 10th child never looked quite like the rest. Now, I want to assure you that these 75 years have been the most wonderful experience I could have ever hoped for, and your answer could not take all of that away. But I must know, did he have a different father?" The wife drops her head, unable to look her husband in the eye, and then confesses, "Yes, he did." The old man is very shaken, the reality hitting him harder than he expected. With a tear in his eye, he asks, Who? Who was he? Who was the father?" Again, the woman drops her head, saying nothing at first as she tries to muster the courage to tell the truth to her husband. Then, finally, she says to him, "It was you." The wealthy boyfriend presented his girlfriend with a beautiful fur coat made out of skunk. "I'm amazed," she said, "that such a gorgeous coat could come from such a stinking little beast." "Well, firks off," said the boyfriend. "I didn't expect gratitude, but there's no need to get so personal." So, a young man takes the day off work and decides to go out golfing. He is at the second hole when he notices a frog sitting next to the green. He thinks nothing of it, and he's about to swing when he hears "Ribbit 9-iron." The man looks around and doesn't see anyone. Ribbit 9-iron. He looks at the frog and decides to prove the frog wrong. He puts his other club away and grabs a 9-iron. Boom! He hits it 10 inches from the cup. He is shocked. He says to the frog, "Wow, that's amazing. You must be a lucky frog, hey?" The frog replies, "Ribbit, lucky frog." The man decides to take the frog with him to the next hole. "What do you think, frog?" the man asks. "Rivet 3 wood." The guy takes out a 3 wood and boom, a hole in one. The man is befuddled and doesn't know what to say. By the end of the day, the man has golfed the best game of golf in his life and asks the frog, "Okay, where to next?" The frog replies, "Rivet Las Vegas." They go to Las Vegas, and the guy says, "Okay, frog, now what?" The frog says, "Rivet roulette." Upon approaching the roulette table, the man asks, "What do you think I should bet?" The frog replies, "Ribbit." $3,000. Black, 6. Now, this is a 1,000,000 to 1 shot to win, but after the golf game, the young man figures, "What the heck?" Boom. Tons of cash comes sliding back across the table. The man takes his winnings and buys the best room in the hotel. He sits the frog down and says, "Frog, I don't know how to repay you. You've helped me to win all this money, and I'm forever grateful." The frog replies, "Ribbit, kiss me." He figures, why not? After all the frog did for him, it is a small price to pay. With a kiss, however, the frog turns into a gorgeous 28-year-old young woman. And that, Your Honor, is exactly how your wife ended up in my room. A doctor was addressing a large audience in Oxford. "The materials we put into our stomach should have killed most of us sitting here years ago," he lectured. "Red meat is full of steroids and dye. Soda drinks corrode your stomach lining. Chinese food is loaded with MSG. High trans fat diets can be disastrous, and none of us realizes the long-term harm caused by the germs in our drinking water. But there is one thing that is the more dangerous to all of us, and most of us have had it or will have it. Can anyone here tell me the food that causes the most grief and suffering for years after eating it?" After a few moments, a 70-year-old man tentatively raised his hand and softly said, "That'd have to be wedding cake." Three old friends are in a pub discussing the fastest things they can think of. Mr. Bill says, "It's definitely sound. As soon as I say something, it takes no time at all for you to hear me, even if you are across the room." Mr. John says, "Don't be a fool, Bill. Light is the fastest thing in the universe. Didn't you study anything in school? Light is pure energy. Nothing travels faster than that." Remembering some old physics lesson, Bill nods in agreement. All the while, Mr. Dave is listening along quietly. "Both of you are clearly wrong," Dave muses. "Shit is easily the fastest thing." The other two look at Dave, then each other in disbelief. Dave continues, "The other night I tried making seafood curry at home for my wife and I as a special treat. Something must have been off, as when I went to bed, my stomach was rumbling. I woke up in the middle of the night feeling terrible." John queries, "What's this got to do with what we were talking about?" Dave explains, "Well, I woke up at 4 and feeling funny, and before I could turn on the light and tell my wife what was happening, I shit the bed."